Welcome to the Crystal Clarity Podcast. You have made it to episode 37, and today I want to talk about the winter solstice. Right now, we are in 2024. We are about to have the winter solstice this weekend and move into 2025. And this episode is important about any winter solstice, and it's also important about the birth of clear yang energy, which can pertain to the moon and other cycles and times of the year. So if you're here from anywhere and anytime, this episode is actually all about tuning into yang clear energy, which is such a beautiful, potent energy. Today, as I'm recording this, it's Wednesday. The winter solstice is on Saturday night, but we're already in the energy of the winter solstice. I can feel it emanating from the sun clearly right now. So about 4 or 5 days into it, about 4 or 5, 6 days after it, these codes from the sun are going to be emanating. So if you're watching this, early or after the solstice or any other year, honestly, there are going to be a lot of things in this episode that you can do to tune into this energy. And I want to talk about the potential of making an elixir, birthing this new energy within you, asking for new codes to awaken from you, and doing the Taoist practice of making a quartz capture. And quartz capture is when we capture or record the energy of a nature event or a celestial event, and then we use that quartz as just a receptacle for that energy. So now we have that energy in that quartz, and we can do anything we want with that quartz. We can put it in a plant, we can give it to somebody, we can make an elixir with it. And that's really important to talk about right now because something massive is happening with this winter solstice. I don't know if I'm going to be able to completely put words on this, but I know you're going to feel it and you already know what it is. So I think just talking about it, I don't even know if there are words for it, right? It's more like frequency. But we're headed into 2025. It is, right now, if you're listening to this from the future, it's really funny. There's drone sightings all over the United States and other places of the world, mysterious drones and these distractions, and it's all over social media. And there is just this energy of like, there's just this energy of the world. How can we make the people secrete more fear, whether it's taunting about war or whatever it is? It's like there's this school shooting just happened again this past week. Whatever it is, it's like there's this energy of how can we get the people in fear? How can we, the financial news is all, everything's about to crash and burn. And there's a lot if you look into the world about getting you to be in fear, and it's chaotic. It's just chaotic. It's like, as we move into 2025, I want to say that I feel like there is this real need for a convergence of energy on our own heart and our own knowing, and to kind of birth and walk into the worlds that we clearly choose and create from the clarity in our own heart and the knowing in our own heart. There's this divine knowing in our own heart. And as we go into the solstice, and I think every time as we go into a new year, we're stepping into the first part of that year. And the first always contains the energy of the whole in a holographic universe. So the first is always really important, whether it's the first of the year or the first days of the solstice. It's it's like these are the moments when we want to clearly, consciously choose what we are going to create because they contain the information of the whole year. So there's that, like, this is what I want to come to you about today is let's do this consciously. When the winter solstice hits, right? What we have is the birth of clear yang. It's like this yin cycle of everything getting darker comes to a close and gives way and almost like buries itself back down underground for this divine child of this yang energy, the energy of the sun, the energy of light coming back. This divine child of yang energy gets born. And I call it a divine child because when something's getting born, it has this incredible potency. And this is one of the archetypes that Carl Jung talks about, the potency of the divine child. And the birth of something truly will bring a whole new consciousness. It's not just a whole new knowledge or a whole new wisdom. The birth of something brings a whole new consciousness, and that's the power and the promise of the divine child, that there is a new consciousness that you can step into with the winter solstice. And what's going to save us is no politician or anything like that. What's going to save us is new consciousness, this new consciousness that is coming now. And y'all, the sun is so interesting right now. Over the next few days, or in the energy of any solstice, winter or summer, sit and feel the sun. Have your morning tea or your morning coffee just sitting and looking at the sun, doing sun gazing. You will feel incredible potential energy of consciousness coming through the sun, which goes back to what some people say is the center of the universe, or the galactic sun, or the black sun, which is like the divine mother sun. The pure energy, the pure divine energy of other worlds comes through the sun. And this consciousness is on fire right now. Actually, in Asheville, it's really interesting here because we've had this giant hurricane Helene, and everything's been like wiped clear. We've lost 41 million trees. So we see so much more of the sky. And so many places where the sun was blocked by trees, we now see the sky and we see light. So I'm getting all of this light in my room that I wouldn't have gotten before this storm, because so many trees have fallen and been picked up in this neighborhood. But wherever you are, tune into the sun and feel the codes coming from the sun. You will feel it right away. It is so potent. And we're going to talk about, making an elixir with a crystal to hold the energy that is coming through the sun. But before we do that, I want to make sure that we get in sync about what clear yang energy is. And I can share this briefly. It's been a study for me my whole life. And clear yang to me is something that is within all of us. And it is something that is in with all living things. And to me, it is clear knowing from the heart. There's a knowing inside the heart that is so clear. We can call it a clarity from the heart, but it's a knowing it's a resounding knowing. And when you feel that clear, resounding knowing that comes from the heart, what the yang energy can do, or sometimes we call it masculine energy, but again, it's within all of us. What that energy can do is feel clear, like there's no shadow of a doubt. It's pure knowing. And then load that clear knowing from the heart with focus and a steadfast vision. And then that clear knowing from the heart can just shoot like an arrow and create the world. It is a very manifesting energy. It is all about carrying that clear knowing in a way that penetrates and creates vision, and can lay down life from that clear knowing. And that arrow penetrating, just think of that arrow just penetrating through the sky. Everything, it just cuts through everything. It penetrates all of life, and that is inside you, that clear knowing. And we want to, like, the clear knowing about the consciousness that you want to choose, the clear knowing about how fast you want your quantum path to be, the clear knowing about what world you want to live in, because we can step into this fifth dimensional consciousness in our lives. We've all been there before. We can choose that. We can choose where we're going, and what consciousness we're going to be a part of through that clear knowing, and hold that vision and stay steadfast with that. So there's focus to it. There's a stillness to it because it's holding that vision. And when there's an arrow flying through the sky, it's like there's this silence to it. There's no conflict. There's no will it be this or that. It's this pure, efficient energy moving through clear light spaciousness. And I want that for you. I want that for you, and not in a way where you have to be like, okay, I'm going to decide now what I want my year to be. But in a way where it just births from the heart, like a new consciousness, and there's a clear knowing of where you're going and what you're choosing. Not in a way where you have to write a list of like everything that you want for the new year or what you're stepping into, but in a way where like these codes are unearthed from your heart. I had a dream about my dad last night. It's interesting because I didn't know I was going to share this episode today or what I was going to share about. And I sat this morning with the codes of the sun and was just sitting in the quiet, feeling all of that. And I remembered the dream. And my dad passed a few years ago. And in the dream, he was this brilliant teacher, and he was teaching about finance and investment and macroeconomics in just this brilliant way. And I was watching him teach, and I was just basking in the sound of his voice because I haven't heard his voice in so long. And it was just hearing the tones of his voice and the way that he talked was like, it was just pure, it was just pure nurturing energy to me. It felt so amazing. And I just felt the energy of his voice for a while. And and then it was almost like just allowing myself to be filled with like the codes of his voice, the frequency of his voice. And then I was listening to what he was teaching, and he was kind of mentoring because he just had all like 12 students sitting at this large table, and he was talking at this board, and he was sharing the coolest stuff about finance and charts and investment and, you know, yeah, macroeconomic growth and the technicalities of finance. And the the thing is, my dad was really smart. He had a clear brain, and he was smart about finance too. But this was my dad at a higher level of consciousness. This was my dad emanating something that he wasn't able to emanate in this life because it was like more of his brain was turned on. More of that clear light, yang, was turned on, more of that clear thought illumination was turned on. So he was at a higher octave of himself in brain and in consciousness. Does this not make you think of aquamarine? Those of you who have been hanging around with me. But it was awesome. And I was like, I'm taking this class. And then he had all this stuff layered on it about our emotions, in the market, and the way that our subconscious affects us in the way that we trade and invest, and the way that our programs affect us, and like cutting through all of that. But I had this way of making it really simple too. And I sat down, and I got out this notebook, and I sat with all these other people, and I was like, I'm taking this class. But I also was like, this is over my head though. But I didn't care. I was like, I just want to sit in the energy of this. I just want to sit in the transmission. So I got out my notebook, and as soon as I got out my notebook, the class was ending. But he was saying, next week we're going to talk about blah 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 charts and technicality things. And then he said, we're also going to talk about how to deal with boredom. And so he was going to go into this lecture about, sometimes we trade or sell or buy just based on our boredom. And you could tell that it was going to be like a deep talk about soul and spirit dynamics. So that is the energy, like that dream. That energy brings us into this talk about clear yang. It's my dad. It's him being really clear. But I wanted to share it because this is what I want for you from this solstice. It's like a higher level of you. It's just you, but like turned on more, unveiled more. It's the codes in your heart and brain, but at the next consciousness. Things that you haven't been able to open in yourself before, but will now. And like I said, you don't have to write this out like in a list, like you're setting the scene for the year ahead. But I want you to open it like codes inside of you, and let the sun and the solstice open this inside of you so that, a higher consciousness illuminates these pathways in you, and you step into a higher version of yourself, just like my dad was doing. So there's energy coming from the sun. We can't understand it. The mind can't understand it. The mind splits. It's like good, bad, right, or wrong. Ones or zeros. That's binary. What's coming from the sun is non-binary. It's a lot of frequency. It's like multidimensional frequency. So the mind can't really follow us there, but quartz can. And what I offer to you is to make a quartz capture from these codes coming from this winter solstice. And you can use clear quartz. It's one of the best crystals ever. See if you can find a really clear quartz, because they take in these codes in a very non-biased, non-judgmental way. They don't need to edit it. They just store it. That's one of the promises of clear quartz. It just has so much clarity and non-bias energy or neutrality about storing codes like this. So it can just absorb them all and doesn't feel like it has to edit anything. And then all you have to do is point it at the sun. And this is the way the Taoists would do a quartz capture. They would point it at a celestial event and leave it out overnight. There's generally a lot more alchemy when you can let something go through the cycle of yin and yang in the way it's capturing, like night and day. So leave it out overnight or in your window overnight and just lovingly ask it to absorb the codes coming from this winter solstice and this sun that are right for you, that will serve going forward. You know, just like, and they know how to parse that out. So just ask, like pull in what is at the highest, best for me, and the quartz will do that. And then you can take the quartz and put it in water. You don't have to put it directly in water, because that could, mess up your quartz, or you might want to just put it in a glass within a glass, or do an indirect method and put it in water and then make the elixir of that quartz. And now all the codes in the quartz have gone into the water, which is a great way to get all of that into your body, to open up the codes inside of you that are coming from the sun and the galactic sun and the black sun and all of the goodness out there. You can also tune into this with other really clear yang stones, the birth of the divine child of yang, clear knowing, the next higher level of you, your brain, your codes. You can tune into the path that you're taking, right? The clear vision that you will have at such a pivotal time. You can also tune into this with other really yang stones. I mentioned aquamarine. Aquamarine's a great stone to capture something like this. It has a lot of clear light spaciousness, a lot of clear yang, and it's actually great for the brain and consciousness too, if you are working in the knowledge or wisdom palace, or want to turn on things like what my dad was turning on, like a higher knowing. And apophyllite is also really beautiful clear yang stone. Look at the refinement of this. Like, I tell you something about this stone, it knows who it is. That's clear knowing, right? Look at the beautiful clear refinement of this crystal. So that's an aspect of yang too. It's like there's this clarity, there's this efficiency about it. And then you can also use stones like sulfur. So sulfur has a relationship with the full moon. It has a relationship with yang. I mean, this is birthed out of a hot volcano spewing yang energy atop a mountain. It has a hot signature. Hot goes along with yang, and sulfur has a way of bringing things to their apex, that yang energy. And it also can be really beautiful for kind of clearing some karmas. It has a transmutational energy, so clearing some of the energy that needs to clear, like washing things off as you go through the solstice too. Calcite has a lot of yang energy. We find it in our pineal glands, up at the top where we receive a lot of codes. So calcite's another really beautiful clear yang stone. It's a calcite crystal. And then another one I want to mention is this is a stone from the Himalayas, very high elevation clear quartz, and it has chlorite on the top. So I'm showing this clear quartz stone for those of you that are listening, with some green on it, which is chlorite. But the point of this stone is from what a high elevation it's from. And look how clear it is too. So high elevation stones can resonate with the energy of yang, because it's an apex energy. It's like the energy of the sun and the sky and expansion. So they're also full of scalar energy, being so close to the ionosphere and where all that ether is living up in the sky. So those are some ideas for other stones that can be your allies in this winter solstice, as this divine child of clear knowing births for you. And I want to say, as I close this episode, that I talked about this energy in episode 11. Episode 11, I'm talking about how to work with different moon phases. And we talk a lot about this really powerful moon phase. And it's the moon phase where after the new moon, when the sky is dark, and there just comes back this little sliver of a moon in the sky. That little sliver of the moon is the divine child of Yang. It's the Yang divine child because it's going to become the apex of the full moon. And what is stored in that divine child is a lot of seed energy or potential energy. And that's why so many rituals are done and such power is seen in the Tao at that night where the moon is just a sliver in the sky. It's just coming back from the new moon. So if you're interested in that too, just working with this divine energy of Yang throughout the year, you can always work with it on that day of the moon phase and watch episode 11. Another thing to note is in that episode 27, I talked about the summer solstice and the divine child of Yin and the birth of Yin. So this is episode 37. All the numbers are working out. I didn't plan it. 37, the birth of the divine Yang, winter solstice. Episode 27, birth of divine Yin, the summer solstice. And episode 11 has information about how you can work with these cycles just within moon phases all year long. So go get it. Sit with the sun. Open these codes inside of you and enjoy the power that's coming through the sun. There's so much that we just get to receive and open to. And many blessings of clear light Yang in your life and opening to new levels of you. New powers of knowing in you, clarity about your life, clarity about your soul, clarity about the path of evolution that you're taking. There's nothing finer than feeling that clear knowing. It's like I bow to that energy. That energy is so beautiful. I mean, so blessings on that for you in your life. And I will see you in the next episode. Take care.